Are you looking for an escape from manufactured truth wrapped in selfish agenda? Don't you just want to have a real and raw conversation, all masks and rules aside? That's what you're getting here at Titan Evolution Podcast. Get rid of all the nonsense information and discuss everything under the sun without filters. Listen to real stories of real people who will put your current perspectives to the test, guide you on living the life you truly want, and see everything free from judgment and pretenses. Time to get rid of those unhealthy environments and let your authentic self shine. Here are your hosts, Travis Johnson and Carol Carpenter.
Welcome to the show. I've got a fantastic guest for you today, but first, let's say hello to my co-host, Carol. Carol, how you doing?
Hello.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's perfect. On par for the day that we're having. Our guest today is Elisabeth Sloan. Not Elizabeth Sloan, but Elisabeth Sloan. She is fantastic. She cares about a few things: the human condition, being a musician, artist, and ancient historian and cultural anthropologist. I don't know what that has to do with anything else, but she loves humor and she's a fantastic woman. She's here today. Elisabeth, how the hell are you?
I am doing so well, Travis and Carol. It is great to be here. I'm excited to see where this conversation goes, because even before we hit record, we were getting on some juicy topics. Father Time was mentioned, chipmunks were mentioned. We were hitting a lot of ground, so I'm glad we hit record. It's time to go.
No, absolutely. We talked about ancient apocalypses, cataclysms, all things that we're going to cover today here in this show. I got to start off with my famous first question. Elisabeth, what makes you a Titan?
What makes me a Titan? Well, my God, I think from the age of 4, when I had my first out-of-body experience on accident, threw me into a great state of objectivity, where I was able to observe the adults around me, the children around me, and have a different view of them, which gave me a lot of philosophical foundation to how I interact with people and what does it mean to be an individual with character, or to be on stage being an individual playing a character. What makes us different? You know, I was able to be a fly on the wall and really be able to observe these people and myself, and that led me to question a lot about how we understand ourselves, how we build relationships with one another. Growing up on the stage and theater, you learn a lot about storytelling, and all of this kind of led me into reviewing the human condition, as Shakespeare would put it. And that led me going into ancient history and looking at all the other stories that may or may not be true. So I think that's really what makes me a Titan.
So out of body experience, like, did you die, or elaborate on that? Because like, you kind of brushed it aside, like, this happened, and
like every other 4-year-old in their out of body experiences.
Yeah,
obviously.
Right.
Yeah, so I was just laying in bed. I was already a pretty aware child. My first memory goes back when I was 2, and I was kind of playing social experiments on people at that age. So
you
I was
were fucking with people since you were 2?
Yeah.
It's
a
social experiment.
Classic story. Yeah. We love a good situational manipulator when they use it for good. And being 2 years old and learning that quickly, it was a good time. It was a good time. But being so lucid, so young, you definitely have a memory bank that is very, I don't know, animated. And so
I'm sure your parents loved you.
They still do. They can't help it. So I was laying in bed and I was praying, and more of like, not really asking for things, but more of like sending gratitude for things. And in the midst of doing that, I shoot out of my body and I'm flying through space very fast. And I'm seeing all these things coming at me because I'm just zipping, and it feels kind of like I'm in a Superman flying pose. So head first into space, which is always a really great idea. And I looked over my shoulder and I saw that my body, my 4-year-old girl body, wasn't mine. I was no longer in that body. And I was flying through space, and I actually met some people. They were really freaking tall.
Everyone's
And
tall when you're 4. I mean, come on.
I know, but they were like really tall. They were probably like, I don't know, 9 foot, 8 foot tall.
Ooh,
They
that
were
is really
very,
tall.
very tall. And they kind of come around me, and I do this cool little move where I'm Supermaning, and then I kind of land on my feet, and I go, yeah, that was a good landing. And I, walk up, and I'm like, in this form, I'm ripped. Like, I look really good. And I kind of like swagger up to these people, and they all just kind of come around me and take a knee. And I'm like, woo, like, I miss this reverence. Like, it's good to be home. I missed this. I don't get this where I'm at right now. No one treats me like this. And as soon as I said that, in my mind, I was like, wait a second. Who are these people? This isn't my home. Why am I saying it feels good to be home? My home is that way on Earth, where I have an Earth body. So I freaked out, and then I snapped back into my body, and then I had a brief panic attack thinking I was like visited by demons or something, because I grew up in like a Christian Jewish household. So, you're gonna think everything's a demon, I guess. But it was a very traumatic experience, not in a scary way, because I definitely felt so much at peace that I felt empowered wherever I was and whatever I was interacting with, even if it was just like a subconscious whatever. I can't tell you what is true. And that's one thing, as an ancient historian, looking at all of these wraps of time and the discoveries that we make in science and in quantum physics on the daily, I feel like as soon as you want to foundationalize, this is true, and there's nothing else that could ever be true besides this, you are cutting yourself off from everything that is wise. And you have to be open, you have to be receptive to every kind of new information. So I will never be the person to say, oh yeah, this is real, this is right. But what I can say from my experience is that was whack as fuck. And I know for sure that it definitely woke me up and put me into a completely different state of mind around children my age and around other adults. And it was a very phenomenal kind of experience. And I had those later on in my life, which definitely helped affirm those kind of experiences. But it, yeah.
Is that why you're wanting someone that's low-key obsessed with you and is super tall?
I mean,
well, yeah.
Like,
well, don't you think
the real question is, how many of those do I want?
Oh, well, don't you think though, as a child, and we talk about this a lot in the spiritual sense, that children are much more receptive and they're capable of seeing things that adults can't, right? Because there's an innocence around them. And so maybe that could have been the reason you had that experience, possibly.
It's very possible. Children being born today, more than ever documented, are sharing experiences of their past lives to their parents. So there are children who were like 5 or 6 who are going up to their parents being like, yeah, I died on the Titanic. And they're like, oh yeah, Timmy, are you sure? And then he's like, yeah, let me draw out the entire engine section of the Titanic for you, because I was an engineer in the engine room. And he'll draw out the entire thing, where you can't find that on the internet. This kid's like 5 or 6.
Oh my God.
Children who are like, yeah, I was this person, my husband and my children are still alive, I was murdered by this guy, my body is here, and if you find me, then I'm gonna have a good day, sort of thing. And then they find the body, and then the guy confesses, like these
What
kind of
the
experiences.
shit?
Yeah, like children are so receptive, and they're open because they haven't had the kind of experiences that block them from their innate gifts. And if you have a lot of fluoride in the water, there's a lot of chlorine, or there's whatever, those sort of things calcify an organ in our brain called the pineal gland. So when that area is calcified, it doesn't receive in the radio wave sense. It doesn't receive a lot of infrared as well. It doesn't receive these sort of things as well when that organ is calcified. So as we grow older, especially in the Western civilization, and we have a lot of, fluoride and all that kind of stuff in our things, it doesn't really do much for how we can really utilize our body and what the human body is truly capable of or has been capable of in the past.
Well,
That's it.
before we
Mic drop.
started this podcast, we were actually talking about what we talked about in a previous podcast, which was that Netflix series, Ancient Apocalypse, and we were jabbering away about it. And so let's kind of get into that, because this goes down to you doing your archaeology and historian, and this is down that vein. What got you into that?
Yeah, that is a great question. I feel that when I was on stage, and I started when I was 4 being on stage. So when I started watching everyone, especially when the adults would be like looking over their lines, they're pacing back and forth, I'm watching them kind of transfer between the identity and archetype that they have placed upon themselves and then moving into the character that they have translated that character to be. It was a great gateway to understanding storytelling. And having a lot of the experience that I had growing up that were very supernatural in nature led me to ask a lot of questions that a lot of surfaced religion wasn't really providing me. So I decided to go further to see action instead of words, to see what really unfolded with the evidence that I had available. So I would look into dream interpretation, or just how mythology and symbolism throughout all these different cultures were used at different points in time, and were they used similarly, were they used differently. That's what really got me into it, because you'd see these symbols in my dreams and I'd never seen them before. And so I Google them, and it's like connected to the medicine wheel of like a part of my ancestry, or things like this. And it's like, how does that happen? What does that really mean? So that's what really got me into a lot of ancient cultures, is really their religion and how they understood the present moment, how they held the presence as sacred, and how they moved through that with expression in art, architecture, music, literature, these sort of things.
So how do we go from that to doom scrolling on TikTok?
Well, is your family spiritual, by the way, in any way? Like in not in just like religion in the traditional sense of religion, but are they spiritual in other aspects that, and were they open to answer these questions for you that you were curious about?
They are definitely more spiritual than religious, I would say. Some lean more towards one way or the other. I mean, I did grow up in the Bible Belt, so in North Texas, so you can imagine there was probably a little bit of bias going on there, but I think that it was nice to be able to be like, hey, Dad, I've had a nightmare every night for 2 weeks straight, and I'm getting really freaking tired. Can you help me figure out why this is happening? And he'd say something like, well, is there anything new in your room? Have you placed a new item in your room? And it turns out that it was a stuffed animal that I had recently gotten, and I was obsessed with because of the color. It was a unicorn. It was like fuchsia pink. It was gorgeous. The fur was so soft. But the person who gave it to me was my grandmother's, at the time, boyfriend. And I didn't like Bob. I didn't like him. But I liked this stuffed animal a lot. But ever since I put that stuffed animal in my room, I was having these horrific nightmares every single night. So when we had to sit down, because I couldn't tell you what it was. I couldn't tell you what this item was. So we had to pray, and then it immediately popped in my mind that unicorn. So I took out the unicorn, and I'm no longer having horrible nightmares for 2 weeks straight. The only reason why he knew how to do something like that is because he had something happen like that with a cowboy hat that his girlfriend at the time had given him that used to be her grandfather's. Lots of lines going around here. So
evil. Things. Have you ever watched that?
No, but that sounds fascinating.
Who's the
Oh
host of
my
that?
God.
Who's the host of
And
that?
so this is where Travis, we talked about antiquing and stuff. And I go, this is why I never buy anything that's an antique, because entities can attach themselves to things, inanimate objects, and you bring those things into your home and it haunts your motherfucking life out. I am not down with that shit, right? But it was scary.
My wife goes estate sailing and brings home some fucking bizarre shit. She's on this thing right now with uranium glass, radioactive glass that you shine a black light and it glows. And it was outlawed in like the 1930s or some shit. I was like, why are you bringing this into our house? You know, uranium, lead, all the good stuff. We're just going to bring them into the house and nothing bad will happen. But what's that show? That show, the haunted things, evil things, or whatever.
Evil things, dude. Like
who's
they're
the host of that?
Oh, remember Jess Muse talked about what's that doll's name? Remember the one that would
Annabelle?
Oh, yeah, yep.
No, not Annabelle. It was a male doll.
Is it like Pete the doll or something?
Not Pete. No, not Pete.
There was, yeah, I can't remember the name of the doll, but Robert
the doll.
Robert. And that thing she said she went there to visit this place that housed that doll, and people were apologizing to it because they would laugh at it and then bad shit would happen to them or their family. It's weird. So this is why I don't buy old shit, because I'm always afraid that something's coming home with me and I'll have to resage the whole goddamn house and get rid of it and figure out what it is, right? So no.
So just so you know, I just got back from 2 weeks in Vegas, and one of the people we were hanging out with, they wanted to go to this haunted museum that's in Vegas.
No.
And everything in there was supposedly like a cursed object.
Ooh.
And they had
no.
Yeah, I had to change my energy before I walked in that place. And then there was like a special like tour you could go see like especially cursed objects, and we opted out of that one. And there was a couple of things in there. They're like, yeah, you can go in here if you want to. And I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna go in there. I'm not gonna go in there. And the people came out of that room looking different. I was like, yep. And then we went and got tacos, and everything was better. So
You and tacos,
interesting
Travis.
how things can attach that way, and it's kind of unexplained. Like, how can you really explain how something holds on to an energy that way? I mean, you can look on a subatomic level and kind of understand that, you know, all things have a life, and so it's going to be holding on to things and releasing things as it, you know, grows and lives and dies, as atoms do. And it's definitely fascinating that there's not really a lot of information that we have when it comes to like these appearances or apparitions of ghosts, or having paranormal items that just like make your house crazy, make your life crazy. I remember it was in Connecticut or Michigan, like one of the most haunted houses in the
same
60s.
place. Connecticut, Michigan.
Yeah, whichever house it was. They made a film about it. It was so crazy. But one of the daughters, who is obviously now an adult, who was telling her side of the story about what it was really like to live in that home, told a story about her mother being in the kitchen, sitting at the kitchen table, and then all alone. And then all of a sudden she sees a woman sitting across from her at that same table. And so she's looking at the woman, and the woman is like mid 1800s, late 1800s garb. And then there's two gentlemen who are in the kitchen, but they're like further down, and they also look in the mid 1800s. And she looks at all three of them and is just like, what the heck? But then they notice her, and then
That's weird.
Go, what the heck? Like, so, I mean, there's the possibility that maybe it was like some sort of time warp slip. Maybe if time is seen kind of as like a spiral of like a circle that's in a spiral, or I don't know, something where it's
alternate universes happening at the same time, and somehow
they just kind of blended together.
But they
so
say
she might
there's
have been
always
as it goes to them.
Yeah,
Well,
but
all
that's
three
like
of them got hanged in the town square because they are
oh
witches that
Jesus,
saw
Travis.
something. Yeah.
Travis.
Such a shame.
Is that how that goes? I don't know.
God,
I hope not. But it's just there's so much mystery. You have no idea.
Yeah.
And to answer your question, Carol, yeah, I did grow up in a pretty spiritual home. They were very lenient on only things that were Bible related. So I did not tell them about my experience when I was 4, nor did I tell them about any other really weird experiences that were unexplainable in Bible terms, or as the Bible is traditionally translated as today. Because
it's just so confining if you think about it, though. When we were talking about like the ancient apocalypse, they revered nature. They revered the properties and the powers that nature had. Like we were just previous to hitting record, we were talking about pyramids and little rooms within the pyramids. Like there are pyramids on top of pyramids, and how they're all built around a central like sacred spring or waterway or something like that, right? Where there's energy. And maybe the pyramids, on top of it, focus that energy.
Well, pyramid, pyramid means fire in the middle. That's what pyramid means. And the way that you can kind of understand how it is actually pulsing energy out of it, like the kind that is geo-electromagnetic of the planet, and that's really what is being harnessed in the pyramids. So if you have a sink, you have it full, and then you unplug it, and you see that kind of spirally tunnel that builds. It's just the same thing, only inverse in a pyramid. So now things are going upwards and shooting out the top of the pyramid. And that's why it's called fire in the middle, because it's literally energizing all of that fire and then pulsing it through. And water is not only sacred because it is a form of life, it keeps us alive, but it is a huge harness channel for energy. It is not only like Dr. Masago something, he did the thing about water. And if you
Masaru Emoto.
Yes, that's the guy. So
hello, come on now.
There's life. It is alive. And if you speak a certain frequency, certain hertz, different vibrational tones, it will change the full blueprint of those molecular structures of water.
In water. Yeah, he did the was it a polluted waterway in Japan? And Masaru Emoto, yes. I knew I was close. Remember, I don't know if you read much about it, but there was a polluted waterway in Japan, and he had everybody come pray at the waterway, and it changed the molecular structure of the water. It purified the water. So when you think about what we consist of, the majority of us is water. And if we can, drink water, if we put intent in water and we drink it, so if we say gratitude, courage, whatever, right? And we put the intent into water and we drink it, it's supposed to change our structure, the water within us. It's an amazing idea.
How do we get people to go pray over the Hudson River in New York City?
But they would have to truly have faith and believe in order to change that water. You can't just...
They have faith and believe in money. I don't know if they have the other faith. I don't know.
Maybe there could be a bet involved. If you can make this purified, then I will personally give every single one of you some sort of financial compensation. And if they all do it and it works, then they can get $5.
$5. Oh yeah. Would they be willing to buy a ticket for $5 with a chance to win half the pot? That's the question. Would they be willing to put in $5, pray over the water for a chance to win $500,000?
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's a better deal.
Yeah.
That'd be a good way to do it.
Very much.
I have
Plus,
no idea. I don't know. Have you ever been to the pyramids? I've been to the pyramids, and I didn't feel the fire. I was actually, they let me climb on the pyramids, and I don't know what they thought or who they thought I was, because I had like a personal tour guide, and then when like security came over to say, "Why are you standing on the pyramids?" my guy like shooed him away, and the security guard left. So I don't know who
What?
they thought I was.
nice.
But I'm okay with it. I had a great time. Me and my tour guide got to see all this stuff. I got to go in one of the smaller pyramids. There's 9 on the site in outside of Giza.
So cool.
Yeah, and the Sphinx is right there. I don't know if you guys knew that or not. It's on the
Oh,
same.
what was it you said about the Sphinx?
Oh, yeah, there's lots of lore that kind of relate that there might be a hidden library underneath the paws of the Sphinx. So a lot of mystics have mentioned this. Also in the Book of Thoth, which is supposedly written by the Atlantean god Thoth, which the Egyptians worshipped as well. They discuss this in the Emerald Tablets, that there is a library underneath the Sphinx's paws. And then you'd have people like Edgar Cayce, who is known as the sleeping mystic, who would heal people remotely without even having a conversation with him. So they'd be put as a client. He would like go into meditation or a meditative state, and then he would be like, "Oh yes, there's something going on with her liver. She needs to do this, this, and that." And then they're like, "What?" And then they go get their liver tested, and it's like on the brink of collapse, and they like need to fix it ASAP. It's crazy that people are out there like that. But this guy, Edgar Cayce, he was one of many people who said that there is a library underneath the Sphinx. I mean, there's just so much hidden underneath there. It could go for so long in our history that we just don't even realize, because tectonic plates move, and then there's tsunamis, and then there's earthquakes, and then there's comets that come to our sky and melt our ice caps and make more floods and just destroy the planet in one go. You know what I mean? Like you never know how deep this history goes and how much was actually recorded. So in Egypt, you have like whale bones and fossils from when it used to be underwater. And you see the water damage on the Sphinx, which modern archaeologists would be like, "There's no way that's water damage. There hasn't been water in Egypt and blah, blah, blah." And it's like, but the evidence shows water damage, and there's like whale bones and shells sticking out of the Sphinx. So I don't know.
And survey says there was water involved.
There was water.
Don't worry about that little guy. That's no big deal.
So it could go so deep. You never really know for sure. I mean, you have places like Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, where massive sites that the more intricate and the more detail, it's better executed when it gets to the older parts of the structure. And as you move upwards, the material becomes, I mean, it's still there, but it's
more modern.
And it's like, where was the sophistication coming from so long ago? And then it was intentionally buried right before there was actually a massive comet that hit the world around 12,700-ish years ago, give or take. And it's like they just intentionally buried it right before.
Well, I have to ask, like, these aqueducts, right? That is an advanced society. And if you look back, I mean, like, how did that happen?
Right. I mean, India had indoor plumbing before Rome. And
my question is not how it happened,
is
that how we lost the technology over time. Like right now, how did the people in Rome build roads that are still quality? And I got to drive on the shit I'm driving on in Oklahoma. Like,
I know.
How did they lose the knowledge over time? We landed on the moon, and then throughout the 80s and 90s, like the amount of knowledge at NASA like dwindled. And then they had to refigure out how to do these things when like the next crop of people came in. How is it that we're losing this information?
It might come from a source of disinterest. It could come from a source of distraction, intentional distraction, maybe intentional censorship of information. there's so many agendas at play. I'm not gonna get into like conspiracies or anything, but there's so many people that have a lot of power in the world, and they have an agenda. I mean, who doesn't? Everyone has their
True.
goal and their mission. So I mean, it's just maybe knowing about how the bioelectromagnetic patterns of our body, how that might actually allow us to regenerate our cells by the way that we breathe, or if we're able to master something like Tai Chi. If we're able to do these things, maybe we can regenerate our organs, maybe we can do other things. And it definitely puts other people at a disadvantage if they
modern medicine, Western medicine would be the first ones to lose out. That means pharmaceuticals would go out of business if we naturally all started to learn how to take care of ourselves.
And it's very
without
possible.
medication.
Yeah. Well, our bodies are made to recover ourselves. We're able to do these kind of magnificent things with our bodies and our minds that what is so funny?
I don't know. He's sitting there giggling. I have zero idea what's going on in that head of yours.
All I heard when you said about the pharmaceutical companies, I was like, fucking Pfizer, that's what I hear when I interpret that stuff. It's like, fucking Pfizer.
Well, I mean, even look at I do acupuncture, and that is a way to get the energy flowing in your body so you release stagnation, and it's all about flow and balance in your body, because the acupuncture points all relate to certain organs and meridians to open up those channels to make sure they're at their prime. Everything's working at their prime. And if you feel pain in particular spots that you're getting acupuncture in, that shows stagnation. And that's opening up that closed and blocked channel.
Yes. And imagine if everyone had this as a household thing in their home. Imagine what we'd be able to accomplish.
We don't even get to pay. I mean, we have to pay out of pocket to get acupuncture. That's how much we are now focused on Western medicine and pharmaceutical companies. I mean, we can't even go get acupuncture and have it covered by insurance.
Right.
That's fucked up.
It is fucked up because it helps so many people. And I can't really bag pharmaceutical companies as a whole, just because they are extremely helpful for so many people. Chemistry and being able to just identify the issues for people. And instead of, like some medications are like, yeah, we'll mask the pain. It's fine. You'll just have an underlining like monster living underneath your skin of illness, but you won't know because you can't feel it. But then there's also there's the kinds that are actually just so helpful. They are so helpful.
Can't we have a collaboration and a partnership between the two, Eastern medicine and Western medicine, and have them work together to solve issues
instead of blind spots?
Right?
They are the bridge
by the FDA. How are you gonna have the food and drugs under one administration? Huh? Come the fuck on. It don't make any sense.
Oh, Travis.
I mean, am I wrong? Like, why do you have the head of Monsanto like running the drug companies as the leader of the FDA? What kind of fucking sense does that make? I think we're the only country that intertwines food and drugs together.
Yum. Yum, yum, yum.
This Tylenol now tastes just like chicken. Like,
yeah. We bioengineered everything to taste exactly like you wanted it to.
Ugh.
I mean, that's one of the things in the Matrix, right? Does everything taste like chicken because they just didn't know what it tasted like?
Or the Willy Wonka bubble gum.
The snozberries taste like snozberries.
Yeah.
But I want to hear more about your story, Elisabeth, because you were on, like, you owned a house in Japan. You were heading out there. You're going to do some work, and then you're going to, on your part-time time off, I don't know if anyone has any time, you're doing maritime archaeology, and then COVID, like, knocked you off your path, and that sucks. What were you trying to do in Japan?
Mostly doing some maritime archaeological research. So on the coast of Japan and their waters, they have a lot of megalithic structures. And they do the word megalithic justice. They are huge. and they are completely unexplained. They are cut 90 degrees. They look just as sophisticated as the things that you see in South America or in Egypt or in Tibet. You see these sort of things everywhere, and there's not really a lot of explanation. So I wanted to go in there and explore, because most temples are built on these geomagnetic lines on the planet. And so it harnesses that energy even stronger. But it's the way that these buildings are shaped that create an even more powerful source to channel in all of that energy. So that's why architecture is so important. And that's why, in Catholic cathedrals, for example, the acoustics are just off the chains. They are just incredible. And you feel closer to God because you're literally vibrating with everyone else in the room at such a volume that it literally just sends you to fucking God. It's just, that's how the building was made. That's how it's structured. So looking at these buildings off the coast of Japan, you're able to kind of get an idea of how they were using science and how they were using sound. How were they using the electromagnetic pulses of the planet to heal their communities, to bring their communities together. So that's really why I was going there. I love children. So I was also going to teach English while I was there, getting my master's at the time. But everything, you say it sucks, and it did suck when it first happened. I'm like, well, drats, now I got to find a new place to live and get a job because everything just got thrown out the water.
You did not say drats when that happened.
I did. Drats. I said, oh, shucks, drats my gats. I said it. I did. And the whole world heard me. You must have been sleeping or something.
I do like to nap.
I do. I do like to wake you up in your nap.
Yeah, it's so mean.
It's aggressive and chaotic. It's good to be an agent of chaos specifically for you. Like, I want you to go to take a nap, and then for you to have one eye that goes like a chameleon. It's just always moving and active. For me to wake you up in your nap. But yeah, so I want to say that it was a sucky situation, because everything that happened afterwards threw me into a life path that feels, I don't want to say more aligned, but it felt way more aligned for the timing that I needed at that point in time in my life. And it opened up a lot of doors that I never anticipated because I wasn't there. So I do think
so
that
basically threw you on your right path.
Yeah.
In a sense.
Exactly.
I love that.
Yeah. So I'm grateful. I mean, I was able to connect with a lot of incredible minds that I would have not had the opportunity or the gateway to do that, simply because I would have been in a completely different time zone, doing a completely different thing. Even on the internet, it would have been hard to communicate with these people. And connecting with these people changed my life. It opened so many doors to a lot of opportunities. And so I wouldn't really say that it sucked. I mean, I do wish I was there doing that, but I think that it really landed the way that it needed to in order to get me closer to my goal, actually.
Yeah, it's just so interesting the way that things will happen in our life to take us on a whole new path, and you're never really quite sure, how it's going to work out. Like when I started my first show, Nonprofit Architect, I thought I was going to be doing nonprofit consulting or something of that nature. Like, it seemed very aligned, and I got no take. I got one person over 3 years, and then I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. This sucks. And someone's like, well, did you ask your audience what they want? I was like, yeah. What do you guys want? And they're like, we want to know, without a doubt, they're waiting for me to ask, we want to know how you're so great at podcasting. And if I wouldn't have had that frustration and asked that question, I wouldn't have gotten redirected to what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
I think that's how all great and successful entrepreneurs start, is we seek a path that we think is what we want to do. And we find out really quickly the universe has other things in mind for us. And shock puts us into a completely different direction where we're like, yeah, I don't even know where this is going. But if you have faith and you just hold on for the ride, it usually works out. And you
have to be humble to pivot. You have to be accepting of new information and be
Yeah.
excited to pivot and know, oh, this feels more right. Okay.
Just
Maybe that's why I'm
trust.
getting only resistance in this area because I need to change. And yeah,
Yes.
trust. You have to trust in yourself. You have to trust in your intuition, in your observational skills that led you to find a different path. It's no job for someone who isn't humble. You have to be able to pivot and see your blind spots in order to make any sort of
Just
difference.
suck it up and go for the ride. That's it.
Yeah. Well, it was Drax in Guardians of the Galaxy. He said, "I too am extraordinarily humble," which is one of my favorite lines because it's so ridiculous. I have to collect those things that were just so ridiculous they can't possibly make it. I too am extraordinarily humble. So ridiculous. I love. Well, I'm just glad that I've been open to different things that come up in my life. Like, I don't know
You
how
and me.
people, yeah, all of us right here, right? I don't know how there's people that, like, when they're presented with new information, they're like, no, nope, can't do it, can't possibly. Like, what in their ego has them so precluded
Chokehold.
from saying yes to anything new?
Limited beliefs
Like, is that just like
and conditioning and all the
Fear.
fear, all that plays a role in it. I mean, if you're
it's-
not open to it, then you're just going to say no.
You see, I don't get that fear piece because I'm scared of everything I do for the first time, but I'm not going to not do it just because I'm scared.
Now, some people, yes. Other people, meh. If they're scared, they're not going to do it.
Sounds scary. I'm in.
It sounds boring to me.
Yeah. Well, we know people that say, "Oh, boring." Sign me up for that. I know, I know people like that. I'm like,
Peace is quite the commodity. It's quite the commodity. You can't. It's an invaluable source, and sometimes peace is boring.
sometimes peace is boring.
I think that's probably what whatever God consciousness created the Big Bang, if that's really what happened. Peace is boring. Let's bring in some chaos. See what happens. How many ways can I understand myself by trying new
Shake things up.
Yeah. You were
Be
mentioning
comfortable.
You mentioned sound earlier, and I forget the word you used. What was it? CYMATICS?
Mm-hmm. CYMATICS.
See, I wrote it down 3 other ways, and that was not one of the ways I wrote it down.
Yeah, cymatics it's a scientific process where you can see the way sound frequencies affect matter. So a lot of the examples are used with sand or very small particles that are sand-like, and they play certain hertz at a very concentrated tone, and it will make these very intricate geometric shapes and structures. And these shapes and structures are actually part of the sacred geometrical platform that we kind of have in our universe. So the Fibonacci sequence is one of them, but the Platonic solids, or this Scottish version of the Platonic solids, which are actually older than the models of Plato, and I think Plato just stole them, which is fine. He took it and he got some leverage. It's great, but they also
you don't have to be the first. You just have to be the best.
There we go. That's very true.
That's Ray Kroc getting credit for the McDonald's brothers hamburgers because he's the one that spread them. It wasn't the McDonald's brothers didn't do shit with it, but have one shop. But so how are cymatics used? Because we talked about this before, like months ago, like in the spring, like how cymatics can be used and embedded in like music to change like the general attitude of the population listening to the music.
Yeah. Putting different frequencies in our songs will absolutely play a part into how our body receives that music. A lot of our music today are used in 444 hertz, which is actually very discombobulating to the body and the nervous system. And it puts you very deep into your root, like the very bottom of your spine, which is great for very provocative music that puts you in a space of kind of the primal instincts of our lives, which, a lot of music today kind of embellishes on that. And so it heightens that kind of physical response that the song itself is singing about. But if we really want to allow our sound and our healing and using sound frequencies to heal our communities, we have to look at other frequencies outside of that one, maybe tapping into the Earth's frequency. And I think that's like 237 hertz. Don't quote me on that. I don't know. But if we're able to tap in, huh?
You're quoted on that. It's on, we record this stuff. We put it all over the world. People
She already said, don't quote me on that.
Nope,
so she's negating it.
It's in here. It's legit.
I made my point. But it's so helpful for the body to be able to use these sound frequencies to allow us to connect to things in a different way. I mean, we all have our own vibration that we give off, whether it be through our bioelectromagnetic forces that are pulsing through our body, whether it be through meridians, maybe it be through the light frequencies that we're putting out, or the infrared that we can't really see. There's so many things that are happening around our body and within and through our body that are just unseen by our current biological technologies, such as our eyeballs, to some. So being able to use the sound to connect with those different forces in our body is crucial to be able to heal us. And you can look at, even this circles back to the architecture of sacred buildings and temples. They understood the significance and they utilized it in their buildings. That's why these places sound so amazing when you go into them. You know, even in the pyramids, you can go inside there and you can feel the energy being different. You didn't, because you just climbed the top like a little mountain goat. But if you actually go in, you're able to hear yourself echo and hear the songs that they play. I know that some of the older religions of ancient Egypt, when it 7.83 hertz for Earth. Yes. So if we tap into that, we'll feel more connected to the planet, which is always a good thing. I think that these ancient religions back in Egypt, they had such a hard grip on the understanding of sound power, and utilizing like sound frequencies in general, not just for healing and for beautiful things, and in their ceremonies where they used water, and they would like have different initiations going up and down the Nile, hitting different points, which actually makes a chakra system going up the Nile. And the biggest, most significant practice done with water was at the crown of the Nile. So they were already very in tune with using water. There's something with mercury that they really liked. I don't know how that is in terms of resonance, but you see these pools just filled with mercury. Like, why? You know, and no one really asks those kind of questions loudly. But you see these things in like South America as well, where they are using sound to heal. And you have like, you go to Mongolia and you have things like the didgeridoo, and the way that that will make you feel versus the way a flute will make you feel versus the way a conga will make you feel. These sounds and the way that they like, even on the beat and the rhythm, even outside of the frequency, it's going to impact our psychological blueprints. It's going to affect our emotional state of mind. And the way that music is made today, we have so much opportunity to use this to heal. We have more opportunity than ever before, I would say, to be able to use music as a form, as like its own portal towards healing and self-awareness. If production companies and everyone is on board,
but they got their agenda, right? So with the agenda, even though they have the knowledge, even if they had the knowledge, would they do it is a question.
I think my only answer to that is, who can we focus on who wants to? Who can we actually give our time and money to in our attention that actually wants to do these things? And with the rise of a lot of independent artists who are not really, they don't find it necessary to go through a major label anymore to get their music out, because maybe they blew up on TikTok, maybe they just have a great social media presence, so they don't really need that kind of vetting in order to get their music out. having that ability to all these new opportunities for artists from every kind of culture, demographic, being able to share their music and how it is healing is probably the biggest step that we can take towards utilizing music in a healing way. Because we can go into infrared rooms and we can go into rooms made out of salt and all these things that connect with different parts of our body and help us ground and help us do whatever. It'll open up certain meridians in our body. When we can use sound as a portal to connect and to heal with one another, it's going to connect us back to an ancient past that I feel was a huge miss that we lost. And of course, there's many reasons on why that happened. Any historian who can tell you that it's an easy cause and effect situation, they're being very naive. There can never be a single, everything is so multifaceted when it comes to cause and react.
Yeah, like your reactions to my facial expressions. For those that are not watching the video, occasionally, semi-occasionally, I'll have like an eyebrow go up, and Elisabeth is like, very complex cause and effect, let me tell you, folks.
Yes.
But even that's multifaceted. And for people that run podcasts, for example, like I'm looking at two right now, they use their sound of their voice to bring in an environment of calm, excitement, imagination, welcomeness. You have to be able to pull all of that out of your voice to be able to make someone feel comfortable to make really nourishing conversation. Because if you don't have the right tone, or if you're not in the right mood, and so you're sharp or
True.
you're low, like you're not going to be able to connect. And sound has gone that that's why when you coo the at babies, they immediately shut up. They because they love the sound. It connects them to something. And you know that you have the mudras where if you say certain songs or certain words, and Hinduism, it will reverberate differently in your body in those different places, and it helps connect you deeper into your body. And that is also another form where you can see where in your body you have stagnant energy. Where is it harder for you to share that part of you? Where is it harder for you? Where are you finding resistance to hit that tone, to hit that note? And why do you think that is? These are great tools for us to have better self-understanding. And if we can all do that independently, then we won't have to like force feed it down anyone's throat to be able to see the benefits of what healing sound frequencies can do for a community at large.
Yeah, I just don't think that people these days are connected with themselves anymore, or even nature. Everything is very much technological. And so what's technology? Unfortunately, it's cold, and it has no soul. So if you don't connect with that side of you where you can figure out, hey, what's up with the resonant frequencies and energies and everything that requires somebody to actually have a beating heart and actually be an organic matter, right?
Yeah.
I know my phone doesn't have a heart. Just saying.
I feel like that's a joke. I feel like that's like the lead in or punchline to a joke. I know my phone doesn't have a heart.
My phone doesn't have a heart.
It's got a heart emoji, but that doesn't have any frequency.
It does. It has heart emojis, and it has like kissy face emojis and stuff like that. But
the emulation of emotion, but not emoting it itself.
Correct. Yeah. Correct. I mean,
if you look at ancient Russia, and by ancient, I don't mean ancient, I mean like 200 years ago, barely. The Romanov family never went outside. They kind of like really liked being inside together with little Rasputin. So they didn't really like build a strong immune system. And so they were always sick. They were always ill. So the Russian people were like, okay, well, we see how much you guys suck because you don't go outside. So we're literally going to leave carriages of babies, of our children, outside in the snow. And babies, being as resilient as they are, they adapted and they had the strongest immune systems. They never had problems in their first like newborn stages of crying. They were able to soothe themselves, all because they put them outside in like weird
Adverse
weather
conditions.
Yes, yeah. And so now that's actually a tradition that is held in the Dutch, in the Russian, in that whole area of the world. It's a very common thing to do, and that started supposedly because the
It's
Roman
called tough love.
Yeah, the Russian
Tough
medicine.
love, bad parenting.
Oh my
Well, in
goodness.
America, you did that shit and you get the police called on you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. That'd be child abuse and neglect.
Yeah, I'm not talking about
Right.
throwing a kid in a snowbank, but
Right.
Yeah, it would be frowned upon very strongly.
Yeah, very, very hard frown. But then like today, we see so many people with autoimmune diseases. And of course, there's a lot of reasons why that is. But when most of our life is spent inside in usually cubic shaped buildings where everything is hard edges and everything's 90 degree and everything's built in fours, and it's like beep bop, I'm like slowly becoming this like gray little alien that like doesn't need emotions in order to function properly. But if you go outside and you're able to build that immune system by soaking in your environment and really be able to just observe in nature, you will come to realize a lot of epiphanies that make it obvious why people like Socrates would often go missing for days and then come back. I was just in the woods for days.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it, and all the kind of mental connections that he was able to make just by taking that time to relate himself to nature. You can see a lot of ourselves in nature, the way that roots develop and how they stick out, or how they, when you trip over them and it's the same fucking root every time on the road, and you're not going to chop its leg off, you just got to be able to know to gallop around it when it comes to that area. Or the way just how I've been really into trees lately. I once saw this TikTok video of someone videotaping themselves being like, tree, if you can hear me, then put your branch on my shoulder. And it literally did. It like the whole tree shook, like you're seeing it from a far back, so you can't, there's no editing or whatever. And the whole tree just kind of like there was wind, but no other trees were moving. And it was moving like there was wind, and then it was just like, and it put its little thing on its shoulder. And I was like, that's so fucking cool if that's real. I mean, if trees are sentient and they are alive and they have a whole network, they all connect to one another underground. They all are telling each other like, hey, there was a huge thump way over here, like beware 30 miles east because it's coming towards you, or whatever. You know what I mean? The idea that they are sentient and they can actually respond to other life sources is pretty significant. That's
watch Fabulous Fungi.
Okay.
That is incredible about talking about the interconnectedness of everything underground.
Ooh. And fungi are, you see fossils of massive like mushrooms, like the size of like sequoia trees back in like Paleolithic, no, not Paleolithic, like way like dinosaur time. Like you'll see these massive mushrooms. So they have themselves are like trees. And like and they have so much nutrients in them. It's just amazing how medicinal nature is on a lot of different facets.
Everything we need to heal our bodies, and I'm sure pharmaceutical companies are going to come after us for this. Everything we need to heal our bodies is on this earth.
That's Carol Carpenter 412 Bullshit Avenue.
But think about all the, like the Aztecs, right? They believe very much so that everything on this earth could be used to heal their ailments. Mm-hmm. Look at the Indians. They are the same way, my Asian culture. I mean, if you go into some of the old apothecaries And I used to find it fascinating when I was a kid. When I go back to Taiwan, you would go to the herbalist and you would get what you needed from them. But there would be jars all along the walls. There would be seahorses. That always caught my eye, like dried seahorses, right?
That's interesting.
It's crazy. But they would have dried parts of animals and things along the wall, right? And all of it had medicinal properties. And it was crazy to me because I came from the US. I was a child of the US. And I'm like, it's just weird in here. But my grandmother, my aunts, all of them, after getting acupuncture, would go to the herbalist. They would grind up the stuff they needed. They would put them in little packets and they would drink them as teas.
Y'all
Just
got
saying.
any of that? Look at any of that seahorse tea on tap today?
I don't
me get-
know.
let me
I
get a little
don't do
seahorse tea.
seahorses, but I just remember seeing them. I only brought it up because I saw them, and I used to always go, "Oh, that's really sad," you know.
Seahorses are healing us and we don't even know it. Who knew?
Yes.
I would never have guessed seahorses. But
Yeah.
every element on this planet is holding like how many periodic table elements within it, and how are those things going to affect us? You know, you eat like one thing off the ground, like a feral person, and it's like yum yum, and it's like, I suddenly am feeling so much more calm because this flower has a shit ton of magnesium in it, and now all of a sudden I can actually like relax my body, and my thought pattern has gone to one track and I can actually focus. You know, like all of these different areas of our planet and all the different ways that we can use our planet and use ourselves to heal ourselves. Like you said, everything that we need is either in the planet, on the planet, or in us. Like we don't need too much of these external things to really solve the innate issues that cause dis-ease within our bodies. And, you know, more now than ever, I think that science is becoming far more accepting that there are bridges that we have to confront that are blending these Eastern and Western medicines together.
Well, I think it would be a
Nobel Prize
perfect
winning-
synergy if they would just blend it together and work with each other, you know, because let's be honest, sometimes you need surgery, right? And why is it you can't use acupuncture to help quicken the results of healing? Because it's been shown that actually accelerates the healing process. So if you can have surgery accelerate the healing process in a natural way without using pharmaceutical drugs, which by the way, can change your hormone structure, right? And then how is that going to affect you in the long run? So how about if we do it in a natural way that allows a person to quickly, you know, heal and feel better and get back on their feet and become, you know, a complete
can't do
individual.
that
Why are you
shit.
sitting there making faces again?
Can't do that shit. The insurance company's got to prove it. Because if the insurance company doesn't prove it, then the doctors don't get paid. Then they're not going to do it either.
It's so true, though. That's what I'm talking about. Why can't we have both of them work together, though?
And I think that bridge is coming because you have the Nobel Peace Prize being awarded to these quantum physicists who are like, yeah, we kind of do live in a hologram. And like, ta-da, surprise, everything is a hologram, and everything that you project out of your consciousness is part of reality in one way or another, or parallel universes exist. Like these sort of things are coming to the surface now, that it's no longer this taboo subject that is only in conversation with people in CERN or in NASA or something. You're able to go beyond Switzerland and go beyond Houston and be able to make these kind of connections that are like changing the world, and it's becoming common knowledge now. Like we're having, whether it's true or not, like these timeline slips, you know, all these Mandela effects happening, and it's like, how can we confront these new issues if we're not willing to see how there are new solutions available? Like we need to be able, and I think that it's coming through. I think that's something that is really promising about our future, is that we're able to open up these ideas for these newer generations to explore these concepts that all the old bats who are finally dying that had the pride too high that they couldn't share this kind of information in academic situations or in their institutions, that it's not in their contract to talk about these sort of things, or it would completely invalidate my doctorate if I talked about these sort of things. So I'm going to omit it for the next generations to talk about. And it's opening all of these doors of curiosity.
That's an injustice, because they're facts, and facts should be brought out, even if it conflicts with what was prior, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Plato talks a lot about the value of censorship and what that actually does to a community. And if we're not, if we can even share as many facts that are proven over and over and over again, the scientific method is on lock, and yet you'll still have a fact checker from factchecker.that'swhatiam.com for sure. Don't question me. I know all the facts.org/don't test me. I'll tell you that. Like, you'll have those coming out and being like, no, that's not true. I checked it. You can believe me. Check my facts. You know, like, it doesn't matter what we share and how we share it. There's always going to be those people that are like, there's no way that I can.
Naysayers. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're always going to have critics.
Yeah. Those freaking nerds. Like, it's, you got to be able to be open to new information.
Yeah, that's the tagline in our show is Titan Evolution Podcast. Haters welcome. That's what we do here. Yeah, that's what we do.
Yeah.
Hey, Elisabeth, as we're getting ready to wrap up, I got a couple of questions for you. One is, where's the one place you want to send people to get a hold of you? And two, if people are having problems in their life or dis-ease, as you're talking about, what advice would you give those people?
So you can contact me at my email, which is my last name, first name, and then jobs, JOBS, @gmail.com. So it'll be Sloan Elisabeth it'll be Sloan Elisabeth Jobs @gmail.com. And I would suggest anyone that is feeling something underlining in their body, in their mind, maybe a memory just keeps resurfacing and they cannot get past it. They cannot confront it properly. Maybe there's some PTSD or CPTSD going on there. Maybe there's some issues going on with your nervous system and how you're using your breath that is now affecting your nervous system and putting you into fight or flight just because you don't know that you're breathing too shallow. You know, you never were born to know that, you know. So if you have these kind of issues where it's coming up on your mind, your intuition won't let you forget it. If it keeps bringing you back to that, like, oh, I have this pinch in my left shoulder, or like and no one seems to have an answer. Like, I would go to a naturopathic doctor or a holistic physician, someone who is certified, who is licensed to do this kind of work, and let them examine you. And also take a step back to realize that everything that is going on in our bodies in some way or another is a reflection of our inner state. So, I mean, it's not to blame you for your things. That's not what I'm saying. But it is to say that whatever you have going on, there may be a part of you internalized that you need to confront. And that takes, it could be therapy. It could be like just going into meditation and having yourself to go through it, journaling, whatever it is that might be successful for you to be able to confront this disease, which is internalized and then later becomes externalized. So, for example, people they have like anger problems, they might actually have an issue with their kidney. So people with kidney issues, they're like, I don't know. It's like, well, it's because you're an asshole. It's because you're literally just so bad at everything.
Travis, he's talking about you.
Whoa. I do not feel personally attacked because I know that I'm an asshole with a purpose. That's what I know.
Yeah.
Well, we only call you an asshole because we love you.
That's right.
Yes, that's very true. It's very true. So I would tell them to do a little inner work. I would tell them to reflect and be honest with themselves, because if they can't be honest with themselves about what's going on, then there's no way that anyone can help you, because you're not willing to help yourself first. And that's really my main bag, is allowing people the opportunity and the tools and techniques to heal themselves from the inside out. It's a one-person job, and you have to be willing and sincere to want to do it for yourself first.
That's fantastic. Elisabeth, thank you so much for being our guest today. And if you want to contact this agent of chaos, it's Sloan Elizabeth Jobs at gmail.com. Thanks again.
Thank you guys.
That's all for this episode of Titan Evolution Podcast. We hope this no-holds-barred conversation opened your eyes on what it takes to live a genuinely happy life according to your own terms. Now that you've treated yourself to such a refreshing discussion, you cannot listen to nonsense content anymore. Be sure not to miss an episode by subscribing to the show at TitanEvolutionPodcast.com. Don't forget to share the word so more people can be enlightened, informed, and entertained. Thank you for listening.